future of WordPress. David is working with WordPress for a decade and will help us understand the same.
I'm a bit short on time now, so I can either go along with speeding this up, or I can just take my time, and we might be behind a little bit with getting our food. So it depends. Do we want to race ahead and get ahead of people in track 2? Okay. So I'll move on. I've got a few notes here, and I can go on for some time. I'm really delighted to be here because I've never done anything like this. I've never spoken in front. I've never been to a WordCamp as well, so this is really new for me. I'm David Waumsley, and as you can see, I'm from India. This is why I don't do jokes. Well, it's a half-truth, that one. I married someone who was born in India, and my official status is as an overseas citizen of India. And, oops, my mic's going. And I really enjoyed being here. I came about 4 years ago to India, and it was the start of my career as a person who was doing and building websites for clients as a living. And it's been the best job I've ever had in my life. It's given me freedom to move around the world and work with WordPress. But my journey with WordPress goes back about 10 years ago. And I'm probably like a lot of people who build sites for clients. I started just with doing my own personal blog. I mean, I looked into HTML and CSS a little bit before that. This is going back to 2005, 2006. But in 2007, I found WordPress, and I created my own personal blog. And it took me a few hours in the morning, and this really was the start of it for me. I could build something in that time and just show everybody how wonderful this looks, just taking a theme off the repository. And this kind of led on to me moving into trying something new with it. I worked for the government in the UK, and I managed a team that were remote workers, and we weren't connected up to their intranet. And it was probably a brave thing to do, because at the time, really, WordPress had only just put on Pages. It was a really simple blogging platform. But I managed to get away with it. There were a few plugins that were started that allowed you to make a sort of membership site, and I used that. Then a few years later, I thought, well, I'll push it a little bit further and try some e-commerce. My wife wanted to start a shop. And again, this was before WooCommerce was on board. And there wasn't much around at that time. But, you know, we cracked on, we found a theme that did this. I'm not a developer in any way. I started messing around a little bit with PHP to get this going. But it was the right thing to do because within about a year, I think WooCommerce came on board, and it quickly became the most popular e-commerce solution in the world. And really, this is where I'm going with this talk, is like when I started with WordPress, it was just as a hobby. I did a few client sites, but those clients were my friends, they were people that I worked with, they were family. And it was quite a big thing for me to move into using WordPress as something I'd make a living out as a developer. And I had a lot of reservations about that. I don't know what other people's experiences are. Actually, I wouldn't mind a show of hands just to find out the type of people who are in the audience. Could you raise your hands if you're like me, that you're someone who develops websites for clients, talking to clients?
We do the same.
Oh, quite small. Okay. Can you just keep those up if you use a page builder at the moment? Well, actually, a person who deals with clients and you're just using it for your own personal use, or you're a marketer or a blogger, how many people use page builders there who are just... Okay. Oh, a few. So quite a few people probably like me, and I guess maybe just to check, how many people are just hardcore developers here? Okay. All right, so quite a lot of people like me. Well, that's really where I'm going on with this. Oh, sorry, you didn't need to have this up all the time. This is the order of my talk. We'll just move up 2, can we? That's it. Right, I shall whiz on through these. We'll move to the next one. I'm just going to talk a little bit about... What I'm saying is, really, when I came into deciding to do this for a living, I had this problem that I had a great job, and if I was going to pack that job in, I would lose my pension for life, and I would be going into a profession where I thought was always tricky. As I was an amateur non-coder, starting with WordPress and got started easy, along the way, before I actually decided 4 years ago to start doing it as a living, I encountered the problems there were with being someone who develops client websites. Clients typically, in my range of clients, local businesses, the majority of people who need to get online for their businesses, really didn't understand the things that I'd learned over that long journey. They didn't really grasp the idea that they needed to understand traffic and conversions. And on the whole, they were, if you like, their brief was really, they wanted something that looked like a website that they'd seen that a client or a colleague had. And I didn't really want to get stuck into that business with that. But really, I saw there was a future really in page builders. And this is really where I'm going with the talk. I felt that page builders allowed us to speed up development with clients so we could actually concentrate on other things that I thought were much more important, like getting traffic, getting conversions, having a purpose to the site. So that's really where I'm going with this. So, how did WordPress grow to be what it is? Well, this is my take on it. I hear a lot said about WordPress and why you should use it, which is using, there's so many plugins, there's so many great themes out there. And I guess everybody here who's on a WordCamp has some idea of the size of WordPress. I don't know how statistically correct they are, but we say it's about 27% of all sites are powered by WordPress. And the growth, according to Matt Mullenweg, has been roughly 2% a year and steady. And the figure that I like to use when we are talking to clients who are agreeing to have a content management system is that it's almost 60% of all content management systems on the web. And this is huge growth, really, when we compare it to Joomla and Drupal, which are only 3.4 and 2.2%. And when I started, they really were the ones that I guess I should have been looking at. They were the competition. They were the proper content management systems. And as you remember, I was trying to build an intranet. That would have been the sensible thing. But the thing is, I didn't, because I started with WordPress because it allowed me to start within only a matter of moments, a few hours, and I was up. Also, I think when it comes to the growth of WordPress, I think it's because it attracts, or did do, non-coders like me. It got us going, and I think this is where we have a development as such. I have a friend of mine who I do a podcast with called Nathan Wrigley, and he's only recently converted from Drupal to WordPress. And even today, he says that a lot of sort of sites that we would want to do, say a directory site or a estate agent site or something like that, would be a really trivial thing to do with a Drupal, but it relies on us as non-developers in the real sense, getting powerful plugins and doing lots of that. So I don't think the growth of WordPress and its future relies on what it can do, its feature set. It's about who it's got in, and I think it's grown because of that, because of its ease. And because of that, non-coders using WordPress are then able to build around it, build premium plugins. That doesn't exist, I don't think. It does in Joomla, it doesn't in Drupal. You don't get that infrastructure of premium themes and plugins. Anyway, I'll move on to the next one. Here with this one. So something that was quite interesting recently, and I think is my argument for why page builders are the future, because I'm reading between the lines and I see it's almost what Matt Mullenweg is saying in a way. It is state of the word speech at the end of last year, I think December. He was talking about how they needed to set up the WordPress Growth Council and how that was needed influencers to really, if you like, market for the first time. So I think he said that 2016 would be the year when WordPress kind of understood and started marketing itself. And I think what he was thinking of is those page builders that are out there, like Wix, Weebly, Squarespace, which at the moment combined only have a sort of 1% share of the market. They are spending a heap of money. I think this figure's right with Wix. In 1 year, they spent $250 million US on advertising alone. And I know as well, I do a few how-to videos on a particular page builder on YouTube. And people are always saying to me when they go and watch those, that the first thing that comes up is an advert for Wix. So they're everywhere. Okay, I'll just whiz on to the next one. So a few of the page builders are around. Okay, so a lot of people are using page builders now. This is just 20 that I found very quickly. I know a lot of these, but they certainly go on, and there was at least another 5, and I'm sure if I looked around there was more. So I think we're in the early days of page builders. I mean, I started and I was aware of Visual Composer, which I think still stands as the largest in terms of sales and use. They say, I think they've got 1.5 million actual active sites out there with it. Now, for me, by that time, it wasn't a page builder that I was interested in the slightest. I'd become somebody who used the Genesis framework. I'm not a proper developer, but I started getting into really sort of simple themes and doing it for myself. So I kind of rejected this stuff. I heard all the stuff that said they were made out shortcodes, they were bloated. And as far as I was concerned, it was on a marketplace as well. It's used a lot in theme forest themes. And it was one that I thought was only aimed at amateurs wanting to start off. I didn't see it as serious. But I soon got convinced otherwise. I mean, the one that I first used was Page Builder by Site Origin. I thought that could add to Genesis. And then came along one that I use now, which is Beaver Builder. But I feel there's a trend going on there. There's a lot of variety at the moment, and many of them started with back-end editing, moved to the front end. Many of them were started with shortcodes. Now they're not. They're using HTML divs effectively to create the pages on the front. And I think there's a move towards better code. Can I just move on to the next one here? Okay. So, what page builders can do for us? Well, it's obvious, it's the speeding up work. For me, it means rethinking how I work with the client, spending less time on, well, I don't need to worry so much when they change their mind and they want to move things around. It's going to be a fairly quick job to lay out things. Certainly speeds up the work. It gives the client, as well as us, more control, and it helps us to focus on why we're building a website in the first place. And that's what we've got. You know, for clients that would pay the sort of money they would need to pay me, they really didn't have that time to spend with me talking about the plan, their aims. They didn't really want to do it. They wanted to get a website up at that point. This way, we can get the site up very quickly, and so we can focus more of the time on the things that matter, you know, why they're doing the site. Okay, and it opens up, I think, new businesses in WordPress. I mean, these are things that have been around, I believe, well, long before the first page builders, but things that we're seeing are one-day web businesses. I've a few people that I know who have set those up, and they really work well because they're used to not being able to manage the time of clients for projects for going on too long. But this is really easy for a client to understand. They know they come for one day and they get the site built. It means that they get their stuff together before they come. And it's really worked out well for a lot of people. Other businesses that come out of it are, I've got a few notes on this, teaching as well. I noticed there's a big growth in WordPress teaching, or people who would set up one-day events where maybe 8 people would come and they would teach you to build your site in a day or a weekend. I mean, they have been very popular every time I've seen them. So with something like this, it's kind of probably a lot easier with a page builder on hand to be able to teach people to do that. And finally, something else which I think has been a trend in making money out of WordPress has been those niche market sites. I'm thinking of things like Happy Tables, has anyone heard of that, or Restaurant Engine? They're a couple of SaaS platforms, if you like. So they are DIY websites built for people who need restaurant sites. And with page builders these days, I'm seeing more and more people like that who are building their own SaaS solutions for their own niche markets. They build some templates out with them. The client can go in and manage them themselves. So a lot of new opportunity there. So I'll move on to the next one. Okay, and oops, we're running out of time. Okay, so the downsides, obviously, was there anybody who didn't like page builders here? Was there anyone? No, oh, okay, that's, no surprise at me. Okay, so there was a little bit of a Twitter storm that went on. A guy called Pippin Williamson from Pippin's Plugins, a very popular and respected plugin developer who tweeted out, sorry if this offends anyone, but the major page builders out there are also terrible, or something along those lines. And he did follow that one up, and I think his issue was, because as we've seen, there are an awful lot of them, his issue was the conflicts that were found with his plugins, perhaps the ones that use shortcodes, that kind of stuff. But he did go and review a whole bunch of them and change his opinion of it. But I think that's the thing about page builders. If they're going to get adopted and people like us get behind them, they need to be well coded. They need not to be just focused, I think, on people who want to build their own website. They need to be there and developer friendly. And I think that's the way things are going with page builders. I am preaching to the converted here, I know, because everybody kind of seems to be quite keen on page builders anyway. So, okay, the other thing that I've heard as an anti-page builder is something a friend of mine had a problem with. His clients got confused. Many of them were on sites where they were using, 10 minutes to go, where they were using back-end already. They had blogs and stuff, and they taught the clients to use the back-end. Suddenly, they were using front-end editors to move stuff around. And I found that as well. I built the site for somebody who'd used WordPress before, was used to updating their blog for the back-end. And when they didn't update the front end, the page builder, it made a mess of their site. So that's one of the confusions. Also, the fact is, this is the big one. I think if you're someone who builds client website, you hand over a website with that much power and give them that flexibility, the chances are that they're going to go in and do what they like. And they can make a complete mess of the website that you spent a lot of time developing. The only thing I think about that, or how I counter that, is that I think it is time now with page builders for people like me who build websites for clients that we need to start getting clients in a lot earlier and introducing them to how to be responsible with the power that they've now got from the early days, rather than it being traditionally a thing that we would tack on at the end of our build once we built it. And the argument with any change, I think that's going on, and I do think page builders are big changes that will get professionals losing work. Well, there's always that fear that anybody who's used to a certain way or making money in a certain way has a certain skill set, that this really demeans what they do, their skill, and that they might lose work as this happens. But I think that's just the nature of the business we're in. We have to adapt for it. I wasn't really keen on page builders when I first heard about it. Now it just makes business sense for that type of client. The average person, I think, who needs a website, not the big clients at the time. Okay. Yeah, the biggest limitation is what I really want to leave you with, which is the limitation of page builders. Page builders are surely things that just build pages. Well, I think this is what the new and exciting thing is. I think it's going beyond that. There's only a few examples I know of, but there may be more out there, where one is a plugin called WP Types and their toolset. They've been, if you like, their plugin makes it easy for non-coders to do things that would normally be done by PHP. So you can put custom post types in, you can arrange your archive pages and that kind of thing. So they've been implementing ways to use that with certain big plugins. I think Visual Composer, Divi, and Beaver Builder. But I think what's really interesting as well is that also Beaver Builder, we're waiting for theirs to come out, a new release of theirs, an extender, which is going to allow their page builder to build out those archive pages, 404 pages, headers, footers, and all of that. So I think we're moving to a time now, and it takes me back to when I first started doing this, is I came in first learning about a little bit of code with HTML, and at that time CSS wasn't popular, it became obvious that we needed something separate with HTML to CSS, which meant to do the styling, to keep those two things apart. And I really see that's the way it's going to end up going with WordPress. I think page builders are going to become the thing that styles and lays out our websites, and that WordPress will continue to give that underlining function in. So, that's it. That's my speeded up version. Thank you very much for listening to me. Sorry for the mic. Thank you.